That's James's dinner for today. I'm going to be talking about In the Heat of the Night, and one of those horror movies. I can't remember the name of it. Truth or Dare, I think that's what it was called. So, yeah, I brought my flowers out today, so I have quite a lot of flowers around me, and we're going to be a little bit cramped in here. James going to have to push that one that way, and because these won't be staying here. They're just here right now.
You're going to disperse them around?
Well, most of these end up at your house, right? So, like there's the hibiscus around the corner and everything. So, anyway, I'm going to start with a poem. I think I'm going to read Sensory Overloaded Elvis, which I wrote today, which I believe is May 11th, 2024. I walked my dogs to James's house down south to give my dogs and James a special treat. Young Elvis barked and barked. It seemed his mouth could not stay shut. He panted in the heat. He barked, then panted, then he barked again. The whole way down to James's house that day.
It's a mile and a half.
We got there just to see James leaving then. James saw us, and he didn't drive away. He honked. Not once, but twice. I don't know why. He could have rolled the window down instead. He could have called to me as I passed by. I would have heard. I wasn't far ahead. James didn't like that we'd surprised him then. James drove us back to my house right away. And in the car, young Elvis barked again. In fact, he barked and barked the whole dang way back home. From in the car, there's much to see, and Elvis isn't used to seeing much. He sees my house, my yard, and James and me, and doesn't see mass traffic flows and such. As it turned out, the treat that I had planned was not a treat for James or me at all. I didn't like the barking, understand, but liked to hear that Elvis had a ball.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, the reason why I didn't roll down the window, I wouldn't even think about it because I don't like rolling down the window because you can get forgotten. So there's a neighbor of ours had someone in his vehicle and stole keys, presumably to the vehicle. So that's just the way it goes. You know, we live in a lousy city with crime.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you'd expect it in my neighborhood a bit.
Well, there was a homeless person back at my place, and that's a long way away from downtown. Homeless person back at your place.
Well, they're here all the time.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. They're in my yard.
What? You shouldn't be in your yard at all.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't bother me so much if, well, it'd still bother me. I'd worry that there'd end up being an overdosed person in my yard.
Oh, there's going to be a dead person.
It'll happen one of these days. Yeah. But, no, it wouldn't bother me so much if they wouldn't leave mess everywhere.
Oh, it's
anyway, In the Heat of the Night. So, Sidney Poitier and Rod Steiger. So this is 1967. Oh, I hadn't realized it was that long ago. I thought it was the 70s.
I thought it was 66.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, 66.
But, so you've seen this movie? Oh.
It's just famous. So Sidney Poitier was, you know, like I think he had 3 big movies that year. It was 67. He was in one called To Sir with Love. Yeah. You've heard the song from that, right? And maybe not. And Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? That was hugely controversial with Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. And people were going, well, he didn't. I don't think he even got an Academy Award nomination. I'm not sure whether he deserved one. You know, like
he was pretty flat.
Yeah, well,
like honestly.
Exactly right. The thing is,
whatever.
He'd be so much.
I mean,
better.
He was playing a police officer, so it didn't matter. I mean, you don't expect a lot of.
He'd be so much better than other he wasn't really African American. I think he came from one of the islands in the Caribbean. You know? Maybe.
Well, it might say in this booklet. This comes with quite a big booklet. Well, not really a booklet. What do you call these things that open up?
Wow,
But so there's a lot of writing in there. I didn't bother to read it because honestly, I didn't even really care for the movie very. Oh, you want this?
Well, I'm just interested to see where he came from.
Okay.
But that's one reason why they find generally that, or they were finding, hopefully it's changed so much, that folks who'd made it to the United States or whatever, to England, from the Caribbean, from a British colony, where these are African Americans, whatever, were more intelligent and educated than poor African Americans
within the United States.
That's on average.
Interesting.
So Stokely Carmichael should have known better. I think he came from, maybe he's the one from Trinidad or Tobago or something like that. He was the one who came up, burn, baby, burn, you know, oh man. And then after that, Martin Luther King got assassinated, and then Stokely Carmichael says, all right, folks, now's the time to pick up the gun. Hold on a second, you're already yapping, burn, baby, burn, you stupid idiot. You know, and who killed Robert Kennedy? Well, it was a so-called Jordanian, who's actually Palestinian, born in Jerusalem, Sirhan Bishara Sirhan, and I can't recall people in the same year. People in 68, all right, time to pick up the gun and start whacking people from the Middle East, you know. If someone gets assassinated, it's just the way it goes, you know.
God, they're having sex again.
Oh, that's good.
Those two are really
okay.
amorous.
Something like that.
It's constant. They're constantly having sex.
I think this guy's a Canadian, Norman Jewison, the director. So you're
What?
the director, Norman Jewison. I think he's Canadian. Anyway.
Well, anyway, this is a movie about a murder happens in a small community, and the police officers in that community, it's a wealthy person who's murdered, and the police officers are kind of backwoodsy, right? They're certainly not prepared for a murder in their town and having to try to solve it. And I don't think that they're even accustomed to seeing African American people at all. They're not pro African American people, not at all, in this town. So the murder happens. One police chief, he's telling one of his underlings, go check the pool hall and this and that, right? And so they check the haunts, and they find Sidney Poitier's character sitting at the bus station waiting for a train, sitting at the train station waiting for a train. And the police officer doesn't say what he's thinking or anything, why Sidney Poitier is being arrested and brought down or whatever, or being held into custody, whatever. And he gets down there, and the police chief is giving him the gears, and the police chief says, you had so much money in your pocket, or whatever. How does a man like you make that much money? And he says, well, I make $162 a week as a police officer in Philadelphia. So he's a big city police officer. And so the police chief is like, oh no, how embarrassing, right? We've been treating this guy like he's the murderer with no evidence, right? He just happens to be sitting in the bus or a train station. And I'm giving away the whole plot of the movie, but whatever, it's from 1967. So you've probably seen it. Anyway, it's a movie about racism. And about, honestly, it makes the African American character, big city police officer, makes him look like he's a big hero, and all of these small town police officers are just absolute morons and racist.
Did
And
you say it was supposed to be in the South? Or, yeah, Mississippi, so it's in the South. Yeah, they've got some pretty dumb white folks there.
so anyway, um, yeah, it's a bit of a, police detective story. He solves the mystery, and there's some uh, very aggressive people he's having to deal with. But then there's one part where he hits somebody, and he was not provoked, as far as I could tell. And I don't know. Anyway, I didn't really care for it, but I guess it's
It
a.
was topical back then. There was
Yeah.
a lot of racism
It
going
would have
around
been.
on all
So-
sides. In other words, there was a lot of stereotyping of whites and stuff like that. Not just stereotyping of blacks. The stereotyping of whites back then wasn't nearly as bad as it is now, but there's too much of that stuff going on both sides, on all sides.
So, Truth and Dare, a horror movie. A really, really stupid horror movie. I just looked at the date on it, and it said 2018. And this is just volume 3 of this Bloomhouse of Horrors 10 movie collection. I've already seen the other 2 in this, so I'm not going to watch them again. And honestly, I don't know. I don't know if there's any, like, I did like Happy Death Day when I saw that one. I thought that was pretty good. But the rest of these in here, they weren't good anyway, out of what I've seen. So maybe Bloomhouse doesn't do very good horror movies. But
Well, they say once you get to 11 in a sample, you've got a pretty
yeah,
representative sample. So,
So I'm
there's
almost
10 there.
there.
So,
but I haven't watched all of them. So
Oh,
I
okay.
don't think I've watched The Boy Next Door. But anyway, I'll get through them maybe eventually.
yeah.
They didn't even stick to the rules that they set up for Truth and Dare. So I don't know. Well, I guess they did a bit, but it's really bad. It's really bad. And the ending is horrible. You're like, oh my gosh, so what's going to happen now with, I guess this person chooses really badly how this should be solved. So, wow, are those birds ever excited?
Well, that's good. Yeah.
A
Gotta
lot
have
of
fun
excitement.
sometime. Yeah.
Yes, spring is in the air.
Yeah, there we go.
So, yeah, this is what I was doing in the very early morning,
Yeah,
probably
you've had a busy day today.
3:30 or 4 in the morning. I was hauling plants out because I couldn't sleep. So I was like, well, I may as well do something. So I was hauling plants out. Anyway, so now they're out. I don't know if they'll stay out. I mean, I'll have to check
Yeah,
keep an
you
eye
never
on the
can tell.
lows. You
Yeah.
never know.
We live in Canada here.
I think it's going to be okay now,
Yeah.
but we don't know. It could
Never
get
can
too
tell.
cold. So I'll have to keep an eye out. Not on the highs, on the lows.
It's usually
Lows
they
every
start
night.
putting flowers out at the end of this month, right?
Yeah. So
beginning
it
of
could
June.
happen. It could happen.
Yeah.
It could get a frost.
Welcome to Canada.
But
we are getting some green out there and stuff like that. We're going to have some warmth in the next few days.
I think so. And I feel sorry for the plants being inside. I broke a lot. Like you can
Yeah.
probably see this little container right here. This is all clippings that clipped themselves while I was getting them
Anyway,
out. Especially this guy. He's really, oh, there's one I missed. So I'm going to have to, I could do that one right now. So I'll just clip it off somewhere. And then I didn't do a
Reach
very
in there?
good clip, but just take the last bottom leaves off of that.
There you go.
Off
See,
of
you're
that.
getting this from a horticulturalist. She'd probably
Doing it
be
really badly
better
because you
than-
actually should make it a sharp cut. So, and then you make a cut right below where I could do it there, right below the node. So you take it and you put it in the water and hope for the best.
Yeah.
So you clip it off right below the node. And you try to make a clean cut, not a pinch like that. You try to use a good knife. Not scissors either, because scissors will flatten it out.
Weird. Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll probably root though. These things root really well.
Well, they've been inside and it's still, or it's.
Yeah, well, this
inside,
one
it's
came
inside.
from a clipping that was
Yeah.
only about this big. I was walking in front of the apartment building. Somebody in the apartment building, at least at one time, 2 years ago, had one of these plants.
Oh.
Because either they were moving out or moving the plant in, and I mean these things break like crazy, right? So
Yeah,
there
they
was
do.
this little branch, little bit on the sidewalk, and I thought, if I don't put you in water right away, you're gonna be all wilted and dead. So I stuck it in some water, and it rooted like crazy. And then I stuck it in a pot, and it's really huge now. And it's actually pretty, almost unmanageable to get out with, because I'm sure I broke lots more that I can't see in there.
They'd be heavy and
It'll grow back.
spilling out of the container.
Yeah.
So this was not the highfalutin apartment because
No,
people moved it
this
out.
was the junk apartment building.
Well, I didn't want to say junk, but
Yeah, well, it's a junk apartment building.
Yeah, it is a
Everybody
junk.
who lives there thinks it is. So
everyone who doesn't.
Yeah.
The cops are there way too
they
often.
just need to set up a place right in that apartment building.
Well, they should set up
Make some-
like a precinct house right
Yeah.
across the way or something next door to us. Anyway, is it okay if I start launching into the food?
Yeah,
Okay.
you go ahead.
Okay. So what do I want to talk about?
How do you like that goat feta? Is it good?
It's good. Yeah.
Good.
I had it, right?
Yeah, you had it yesterday.
It's good. Very good. Tasty.
All right. So what are you going to talk about with us today, James?
I'm going to talk a bit more about civilization.
Okay.
Uh,
Do you want me to bring that Greek thing out?
it's not in there. I've got it in my place.
Oh, okay.
You could bring out the globe, though.
Okay. Yeah, you just get talking and
I'm going to show you folks how civilization spreads. It's not civilizations, it's civilization. There are many cultures in the world, but there's only one civilization. Civilization is not a product, it's a process. Try to get that straight. So, the products of civilization, thank you, I appreciate it, have been slightly different around the world, but generally, what does civilization mean? It, strictly speaking, just means living in cities. Yeah. The root CIV is probably the same root that forms the basis for city. Civitas, maybe. Citizenship, is that what that means? Civitas. Civitas. Civitas would be more like the classical Latin pronunciation. So, here we go. This is, understand, like you folks who get a little too excited about stuff that's politically incorrect, you probably don't want to have a heart attack. It's going to be very politically correct, but anatomically accurate. No, it's going to be an attempt at something like accuracy. Some people just can't stand the truth out there. And a little hard to witch hunt me. I don't have a job that you guys can witch hunt me out of. I'm retired. I'm sure some of you guys would love to. I'm assuming the majority of people out there listening are actually sane and rational and actually believe in democracy and freedom of speech. There's quite a few particularly congregated in our university. I use this term congregation perhaps intentionally because it's become a religion for them, their belief system. It's that strong. It's impervious to facts. It's kind of like that saying, Don't bother me with the facts. My mind is made up. One could argue whether there was much mind involved in that kind of stuff. Anyway, two places where civilization developed. Civilization in the sense of a little bit, like you look in places like Turkey, and you'll find that there are old cities, or in the Middle East, Jericho, predate. Look at they predate writing. I'm more interested in civilization once it got to the point of developing writing systems. It's hard to have a city without some sort of writing to do accounting and stuff like that. Also, eventually there'll be laws. People are supposed to really should have to, in a city, behave according to some sort of standards. Like anarchists really aren't made for, anarchism isn't made for cities. Oh, I just make up my own rules. Yeah, okay. What happens when someone steps in your toe? Oh, I just fucking killed. Oh, sorry about that. It's not the way I generally talk, but the way these idiots would talk. I just kill them. Sorry about that. Anyway, so it developed in Iraq. Southern part of Iraq, actually. That's where the ancient Sumerians were. And then kind of like in the northern part of Egypt, relatively north. Not really the delta, but kind of where the distributaries of the Nile start forming the delta, around present-day Cairo. And they say that's about 3000 BC. They probably say it's significantly earlier than that in Iraq, but that's just very bad racism, and I don't use that word lightly. Most of the stuff that's called racism nowadays is just what used to be called racial prejudice, and it still should be called that. But it's not that nice, racial prejudice, but racism is kind of like Hitler. Huh? When people don't like folks of a different color that much, that's different from wanting to kill them off. So what happened was, it's maybe 2800 BC or something like that. 2700 would be a little late. They developed writing systems same time. Very different writing systems. They started off as picture writing. The Egyptian writing for the longest time stayed something like picture writing. The stuff in Iraq, originally Sumerian, and then it was used, adapted, that writing system developed by the Sumerians was adapted by people who spoke languages similar to modern day Arabic, modern day Hebrew, called Semitic languages. And so you had kind of like a composite civilization developed in Iraq. And then sometime before 2000, but not much before 2000 BC, so maybe 500 years later, you got writing developed in the Indus Valley here. Basically in present-day Pakistan, some of the valleys in India still. This land was robbed by Muslims and severely settler colonized by people from Iran, Afghanistan. There would be some from Iraq and some from Saudi Arabia. And it's and imperialized, of course. It was starting, I think it's about 711 AD, and it started getting serious about a little after 1000 AD. And then they set up the New Delhi Sultanate sometime after 1200 AD. Was I saying BC? These are all AD dates. We're not talking about Islam in there. And then finally there was something that was basically controlled all of India. It was a modern day colonial effort. Start 1526 AD. no business being in India, taking over all of India, stuff like that. That was responsible for the Taj Mahal, but it's also responsible for lots of destruction of monuments and stuff like that. That was set up by the preceding civilization and been there for 2,000 plus 1,500 years. I mean, that's a long time, 3,500 years. Anyway, so that's the third place to get writing. And they say it was derived from Aramaic, which came from the Fertile Crescent. I'm a little bit skeptical about that. But I haven't read much about it. I'm skeptical. I'm not cynical about it. And then the fourth place to develop writing is China. And weirdly enough, it looked as though it wasn't right on the coast, but maybe a little bit inland here, along the Huanghe, the Yellow River, and stuff like that. And yeah, they even have Huang marked on there, but it might have been right around in this area, anything else. So what happened was civilization, singular, spread from there. So quite early on, you've got the Fertile Crescent, like civilization spreading back and forth. I include Egypt as part of the Fertile Crescent. There's a bit of a gap there, or in the Sinai Peninsula, but it's, yeah, you can get across Sinai Peninsula. All you got to make sure is you got enough mules with jars of water or whatever on their backs to get across. And it's not like crossing a mountain. You got to have some provisions for food, but you can make it across it easily. So what would happen is Egyptian influence spread into what's called Southwest Asia, and like quite early on, wake up and smell the coffee. People coming from Akkad, which is very close to Baghdad. It was called by the Sumerians Kid. Kid Nun is the way they misread it. They're not sure about how to read it. Yeah, Nun apparently is a postposition, means in, so that means in Kid. The Sumerian version of Akkad. Akkad is a Semitic name. How much time? 2 minutes? Okay. So the Akkadians actually, and this would be about a little bit before, let's say 2200 BC, actually conquered pretty well all of Egypt, all of the Nile Delta. That's what the Akkadians said. I don't care what modern day archaeologists and Assyriologists say. They don't have a clue. They don't have a clue about that. They've got way more clue than Egyptologists do. But they're accepting something that was set up by a racist called Sir Flinders Petrie. And then about 1100 BC, 1600 on a very bad dating, it looks as though people in Turkey, Hittites, they're Indo-Europeans, started maybe conquering, and fairly quickly they developed something like a writing system. The Phoenicians here about 1100 BC, 1000 BC, developed their own writing system. It's supposed to have been the one that we got. Are we over?
Nope.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right,
Keep talking. I'm just gonna show
and then
flowers.
the Phoenicians spread, according to the Greek account, they spread to Crete, and then from there they spread to Greece. And they brought writing with them. This guy called Cadmus, a place called Thebes, north of Athens. And from there, it took a while, but it spread to Italy. The Italians didn't really civilize themselves until the Renaissance in 1500 AD. Long time after the Greeks settled in there. The southern part of Italy was called Magna Graecia. Big Greece, okay? They had more land in there than they had in Greece itself, right? So this stuff